Okay, what's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to a Sunday edition of Morning Scone presented by Brock, the Banner Orthopedic Clinic, Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com. Do business with someone you know. Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com. All right, glad to have you aboard with us here on this Sunday. Tigers lose a tough one. They got pretty good and walloped by Tennessee, 40-13. So definitely one of those days where, if we talked about Mississippi State kind of being a measuring stick day, right? Like a balance of power game. This was a definitely a measuring stick day as well, where you realize Tennessee's good and you aren't. Tennessee's really good and you aren't. So it was certainly disappointing. Good on all the fans that showed up early, but right from jump. LSU just made it very hard on themselves, if not impossible, with the fumble there on the opening kickoff, giving Tennessee and that offense, the ball. At the 27, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plays later, they were in the end zone up 7-0. You quickly go 3 and out. You get a good punt. You allow a 58-yard return. They set up at the LSU 26. You do come up with a nice stop to force a field goal, but in a blink you were down 10. So that's a bummer, man. That's really a bummer that it played out the way it did. Like we talked about, thought Tennessee would win the game. Did not think it would be 40-13. There was just a whole lot of bad in the first half. Whenever I chart, I always do I'll do good plays here and bad plays here. You can see I had Brooks sack, converted 3rd and 13, Tennessee's missed field goal. The bad, Bash muff, unnecessary roughness on Jay Ward, the booty drop, punt coverage, illegal substitution. You allowed them convert 4th and 4. I'm sorry, you were short on your 4th and 4. You committed a holding penalty. You got stopped on 4th and 1. PI on Richardson. They converted a 4th and 2. Dre Jenkins dropped at the end of the half. Got sacked on 4th down, which gave them the field goal right before the half. I mean, it was a whole lot of bad in that first half. You could blame the kickoff time. You can blame whatever you want. Bottom line is, good teams are ready to go whenever they have to, and LSU's not a good team. So they're still going to win games. They're going to win games. They're going to lose games, like we've talked about. So you just hope that this season continues to be a progression of getting better and better and better. So, all right, we'll say some good mornings. YouTube, please smash that like button. Subscribe up to the Matt Moscona channel. Facebook, please like the page, share the post, say some good mornings here, see what y'all got. Of course, it is Saints game day. Looks like Kamara is going to play today against Seattle, which is great news. Saints need this one badly. Aaron Hornsby, Kelly Gross, Jordan Smith, good morning. Let's see, how do you feel about some of the play calling by Kelly yesterday? Well, Mike Denbrock calls the plays. Brian Kelly doesn't. So I don't know if that's what you're talking about, or if you meant like some of the in-game decisions. For example, I hated electing to receive. We talk about it every week. And every time LSU has won the toss, they've elected to receive, except for the Auburn game. And in the Auburn game, LSU deferred. And to start the game, they went 3 and out. Gave the ball to Auburn, and Auburn scored on the busted coverage, if you remember, and just like that was up 7-0. But the reason you defer is because you try to go back-to-back at the end of the first half and start of the second half. And that's basically what you were able to do against Auburn, if you remember. So, yeah, you got down, but at the end of the half, when you got the defensive score, then you got the final possession of the first half, and you put together the long drive, and so it was 17-14, and then you got the ball to start the second half. Now, you didn't score, but you would flip the possessions in your favor. So it's analytics at this point. It's why teams defer. So anyway, that I hated. I did not like the decision on 4th and 4 to go for it deep in Auburn territory, in Tennessee territory, when you had an opportunity to get 3 points and break through and put points on the board. It was 10-0. That field goal there makes it a 1-score game, and I get it. You're going to need 7s, not 3s, but you can't go chasing points all throughout the game. It's a long game, and opportunities are going to come, and they did for LSU, but they weren't able to capitalize, and the lead just built more and more and more. So, James Kelly, Lou Hamilton, we got a true measure, and I believe we have a full season of things that need to be fixed. But we have help coming in next year. No first round picks this year. Well, Kayshawn's going to be a first round pick, and Ojulari has a shot at being a first round pick. Why is YouTube not showing me this video? Come on, YouTube, where are you? There we go. All right. Jeb Whitley, good morning. Logan Foster, what's up? Eric Bertrand, Alan Black, Big Chrisdom 24. Daniels gets the ball super late. The coaching staff was super disappointing yesterday. It was definitely a day where you got out-coached in all three phases. Of the defense, yeah, I mean, it's hard to look at giving up 40 points and say you think the defense played well, but I think the defense, see, this is what we talk about, though, against Tennessee, you're not going to shut them out. They're going to score. I mean, some of y'all yesterday were giving your score predictions. You had LSU winning 17-14. I mean, you just haven't seen these teams play. Tennessee's going to score points. I mean, they're very good. They got a great quarterback. They got skill guys. They're efficient at what they do. Like, they're going to move the ball and score. The key is, getting stops is, in essence, holding them to threes. And you did that early. Like, you, on their second and third possessions, you held them to threes. I mean, it could have been 21-0. Instead, it was 13. So, you you gave yourself a chance early, and even when it was 20-0, you score to make it 20-7. You get the ball back before half. After they missed the field goal, this was the game. And Jure Jenkins had that slant. He dropped it. Never to say, but it was tipped. It was tipped and hit in the hands. He's a senior wide receiver. Catches the ball. Catches the ball. He scores. It's 20-14 at half. Game feels completely different. Well, didn't. You went 4 and 4th. Got sacked. Gave them 3 points. It was 23-7 at half. They scored right to start the second half, and that was over. Again, which is why you defer. But anyway. All right. Lucy B, how did LSU beat Mississippi State? It was a good matchup for LSU. Defense played exceptionally well. And LSU was really able to move the ball in the second half against Mississippi State. Problem against, Tennessee is when you get down 30-7, now you have to throw. You got to score in a hurry and score in bunches. LSU was only down 13 to Mississippi State. It's a big difference being down 13 and being down 23. And it's, Larry Garner, good morning. Aaron Hornsby, Edward O. God, please let the Saints win today. Let's see. Morning, Matt. LSU loses every game up to Arkansas. Should they start Nuss or Walker for the rest of the season? Maybe. Yeah. I mean, we'll see how that goes. But, I don't think they will. But I think they'll have a great chance to win next week at Florida. And I think they have a great chance to win at home against Ole Miss. I'm not saying they're going to win both those games. My feeling, like I told you before the season, was I think they need to split October, go 2-2 in October. And I thought they'd win one of the home games and one of the road games. Well, they already won one of the road games and won at Auburn. And they lost one of the home games. They lost Tennessee. So can you split these next two? Maybe you lose at Florida, beat Ole Miss at home, which I think is very doable. You might see that. You lose to Tennessee, lose to Florida, beat Ole Miss, lose to Bama, beat UAB. I think that's how it'll go. But the thing is, man, the thing about Daniels is I believe, as the coaching staff does, that he gives you the best chance to win games on this team. And we talked about it a bit on Whiskey and Wine yesterday, but if you start losing incessantly, like you're losing a bunch, then you look to it and you say, well, what's the point playing the veteran guy? Like, it's probably worth to get the young guy experience. But you're not at that point yet. You lost to a top 10 team yesterday. Okay, you're not a top 10 team. And by the way, if you think that LSU's loss yesterday, if you think that Jaden Daniels is the number one culprit in LSU's loss yesterday, you're outside of your brain. Besh muffed the kickoff that gave them 7 points. You had 3rd and 3 on your first possession. You threw a slant to Keyshawn Booty, it hit him in the helmet, he dropped it. You punt. They get a 58-yard return. That ain't Jaden Daniels' fault. You hold him to a field goal. Jaden Daniels puts together a really nice drive. You go for it on 4th and 4 instead of taking the points. You go for it on 4th and 4. Keyshawn falls down, trips over Emory Jones, gets up, gets him the ball, reaches for it, was just short. You turn it over on downs. That ain't Jaden's fault. You see my point? Like, I mean, the 45-yard touchdown pass in the first play after the 4th and 1 stop to Hyatt, that wasn't Jaden's fault. How many times was he sacked? You see what I mean? Like, you got a lot of problems. You got a lot of problems. But if your number one culprit today, if you're coming here saying Jaden Daniels is the problem, bro, like, we're not watching the same game. I'm not saying he's perfect. I'm not saying he's played great or even above average. But I'm telling you, he wasn't your biggest problem yesterday. E-Dub IV. A lot of Tennessee fans sitting in LSU season ticket holder seats. Don't care. I've told you all a million times, I'll never criticize a fan for what you choose to do. You want to use your ticket, use them. You want to show up early and stay late? Great. You want to show up late and leave early? Great. Don't care. It's your money. It's your free time. You want to sell tickets and make money to pay for your entire season package? Cool. Don't care. Don't tell me what to do with my money or my time. I'm not going to do that to you. Hey, bud.
You'll be fine. Good morning.
Austin Kidder, Sunday morning, when we can listen to Matt without T-Bob constantly interrupting him and acting like he's God's gift of football. Does T-Bob interrupt me a lot? Aaron Hornsby, I didn't see the ball. I didn't either, Aaron. I thought, again, I picked Tennessee in the game, but I don't think the odds maker saw that either. You know, I mean, it was a 2-point line or 3-point line. I mean, I think if you play that game 10 times, you get that result maybe 1 out of 10. It just sucks that that's the one that counted, right? Joey Metke, Trivia Carter. What happened to guys winning a job in practice? If Nuss can't win the job in practice, why should he play? There's some truth to it. That's why he's not playing, you know? But, you know, again, that's all. When he's had the opportunity to play in games, it hasn't gone great. And my understanding is it's not gone great in practice either. So that's why you're seeing Jaden Daniels. Again, Jaden Daniels, he's not Bryce Young. He's not Hendon Hooker. But he's also the best option you have. Greg T. Who dat? Otter have any NFL bets? Yeah, listen, so Jimmy Ott makes... So around 11:30, 11:35, he does his cappers recap. So it's he recaps all the professional handicappers picks from the week, their best bets that come on his show, and then he gives his 5-pack around like 11:45. So 11:45 Central on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. If you're not in Baton Rouge, you can listen on the app. Jeb Whitley, I love T-Bob. He does interrupt a lot. Gregory Gordy, 3rd and freaking 1. Justin Went, Jared Espry, Brian Thomas, what's going on? LSU Sports Fanatic. Trivia, hate to say this, but I'm kind of happy. I was at a wedding rehearsal, missed that game. Yeah, it did work out for you, didn't it? We need better plays. Tennessee had receivers wide open, ran quick passes. We never have receivers open. LSU did run quick passes. They ran a wide receiver screen to Kyron Lacey. They ran a wide receiver screen to Keyshawn Booty, both which were covered exceptionally well. I think the one to Booty lost 4 yards. Tennessee was well coached and they were ready. Bill Gallion, what's up? Let's see, Connor O'Neill. Kelly needs to be criticized for placing McMahon with Polian. What an absolute joke. Special teams cost us every single game. Yeah, that's an objective fact that special teams have been awful. And Brian Polian deserves blame. I mean, he is your special teams coordinator. It's his job to make sure that those units run efficiently. And it's one thing if recruiting can fix something. What I mean is, I'll point to 2017 when Ed had Connor Culp and Jack Gonsolin as your place kickers. And both had a lot of struggles that year. Well, you brought in Greg McMahon, and he went and found Cole Tracy, and then Cade York. And you know what I mean? But your other units were still really good. Your coverage units were good. You know, once he got kicking talent in there. Like, I don't think that's your problem. Your problem is, like, literally every unit. You don't cover kicks well. You commit penalties. Against Auburn, you had 4 special teams penalties in the first half. You know, we mentioned the Besh Muff, but also you allowed a 58-yard punt return. It's everything. I mean, it's all of the special teams units. Like, none of them are good. So, and at any, the kickoffs out of bounds. I mean, which thankfully you didn't have any yesterday, but that's the problem that this team has on special teams. Is like all of the special team units are bad. So it's either the evaluation of the players that you have on special teams units, which are poor, which is part of it. The lane discipline or lack thereof that your coaching obviously isn't taking. It's a lot of that stuff, right? Mark Allen, Jordan Thomas, morning, Matt. What are your thoughts on the quarterback situation moving forward? Are they just waiting until Walker is ready next season? Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that they don't want to run Walker Howard out there, which I'm fine with. There's no reason to put a freshman out there behind that offensive line, which, man, I mean, Tennessee had 5 sacks, 9 tackles for loss, 3 passes defended. I mean, y'all, I saw some of this yesterday too. You tell me Miles Brennan couldn't have been better than this? I would like to remind you that Jaden Daniels, your very mobile, very athletic quarterback who's also your best rusher, was sacked 5 times and your team gave up 9 TFLs. Y'all, Miles Brennan might have been decapitated in that game. Like, it's why they wanted the mobile quarterback behind this offensive line, which already was not good, and then you lose Will Campbell and then Garrett Dellinger during the game. So, your question was about Walker. I don't want to put Walker Howard behind that line. Are you kidding me? No, thank you. More Matt, which is a better decision? Kelly choosing to take the ball to start the game or Jimbo's play calling from the 2-yard line? Whew. It's funny, A&M folks are kind of taking their moral victory lap. You got 4 turnovers. They missed 2 field goals. They were without their Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. And you still lost and only scored 17 points. Okay, Eggs. If that one was Rich Little. Bernard Snyder giving up 250 rushing yards. Yeah, man. You know what, Bernard? I wish people would go back and watch the final segment on AFR, the game prediction, or yesterday on Morning Scone. We talked about that. As much as people talk about Tennessee's passing game, and rightfully so. They average 200 rushing yards a game. Say that again. Tennessee averages 200 rushing yards a game. And as a result, you can't commit numbers to the back end to defend the passing game because they'll gash you running. And then if you try to commit numbers to the box to limit the run game, their receivers are good enough to beat you one-on-one. They're a tough matchup, man. They're a tough matchup. There's no doubt. They're going to be a tough matchup for Bama next week. Bryce Young better play. Tennessee's going to be a madhouse next week. Ryan Amanda Guidry, Adam Michaels, Tony Cortello. Bad decision-making by coaches, not going for the field goal, fourth down attempt at midfield, play calling against special teams. Wide receivers dropping balls, quarterback who seems to not understand situational football. 6 games in, this is the team. It's mediocre talent level with bad offensive talent, bad offensive execution, and decent defense that has poor communication. A lot of that's true, Tony. Yeah, I mean, a lot of that's very accurate. Bernard Snyder, there was a lot of orange in the stands. Yeah, I get it, man. Tennessee hadn't been here for 12 years. They got a good team. Got people wanted to come to a game in Tiger Stadium. I don't blame them for making the trip. It's a good trip. In the same way that, LSU goes to Rocky Top once every decade, the LSU fans want to go make the trip. 30,000 fans going to the Rose Bowl or 30,000 fans going to Lambeau. Just, you get a novelty trip like that, people want to go. Mark Specht, you better beat Florida. Don't think you beat Ole Miss. I don't know, Mark. I mean, Vanderbilt was leading Ole Miss for 2+ quarters yesterday, and Vanderbilt stinks. Earl Lytle, Saints need a big win today. Absolutely they do, Earl. Rich Lomet, what's the news on the offensive lineman? How many we have out now? So I'm fairly confident in saying that Will Campbell will be back this week. I'll put it to you this way. I would be surprised if Will Campbell wasn't back this week. Brian Kelly mentioned after the game that what we had heard was dehydration, and apparently dehydration led to what was described like as an episode, and so they did have to call EMS, so he spent the night in the hospital. But I think everything seems to have checked out okay. I don't want to be presumptive. I'm sure we'll know more when we talk to Brian Kelly on Monday, but certainly most importantly is that Will Campbell's okay, so to say that. But Garrett Dellinger looks like he's going to be out. I think I was told after the game by someone internally, conservatively, you would think maybe the Bama game. So if he's out, that also lets his hand heal, right? But so a knee injury. They put Xavier Hill in at left guard for Dellinger, and he promptly gave up a sack. Oh, hang on, let's see if we can find it. I know I wrote it down. Let's see if I can find it in my notes. Oh, it was LSU's first offensive possession of the second half. They had 3rd and 8, and Xavier Hill missed the stunt, gave up the sack. Hey, okay, babe. As always, just shout out to Brock, Badgers Orthopedic Clinic, HUDCO Roofing, HUDCORoofing.com. You need an orthopedist, go to Brock. They're the best. After Hours Clinic is open, of course. HUDCO Roofing, HUDCORoofing.com. We've got HUDCO pinned in the chats on both Facebook and YouTube. So would love it if you click that link. Allow us the opportunity to give you a free, no obligation roofing inspection. HUDCO Roofing. Jeb, smash the like, folks. Let's get Matt and the Scone family to retirement early. Also love Brian Thomas, the man-child. Nicholas Cantrell, LSU Sports Fanatic, SRT86, offensive line sucked, defense didn't get off the field, 3rd down penalties. Jaden Daniels is a Saturday quarterback, nothing else. Yeah, probably. I mean, I think he can get better. Players always have the opportunity to improve. But right now, yeah, I think all that's true. And he's got a skill set. Let's see, what are your early thoughts on the Florida game? I think Florida can get got. And here's the difference with Florida and Tennessee. Richardson is a very dynamic runner, and Florida's running game can be really good. you commit numbers to stopping the run, and that does leave you a little exposed on the back end. But Florida's receiving talent is not Tennessee's receiving talent, and that's the big difference. I don't mind leaving my guys a little more vulnerable on the back end against Florida because, number one, I don't think Richard's not as good a passer as Hooker, and Florida's receiving talent isn't as good as Tennessee's. So I think it's a different style of matchup for your defense. And then the question becomes offensively just what it's been. Can you get going? Gregory Gordy, Bill Gallion, Trivia Carter. Good news is Saints win because LSU lost. Jared Guillory, Merrick Mathern, Bengal Tiger. O-line is key, impacts everything. Offense directly and indirectly. Right. Gregory Gordy, do y'all do whiskey and wine during baseball season? No, haven't. What I have done sometimes, Gregory Gordy, is like I'll fire up a live stream after the Sunday game or something like that. And we used to do companion shows, which were fun. But I may, we'll see, possibly, we might get like a weekend recap show going. I think that's possible. Where like on Sunday, when the series ends, we fire up a stream and do like a post game. But to do one for all 3 games during the weekend is not really feasible. How jubilant. See, Dustin Fontenot, that must have been what the victims of 2019 LSU felt like. Hang on one second. Drew's back next week. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Actually, I'll be back in just a second. I will give you this musical interlude while I'm gone. I'll be right back.
When you need a roof, call someone you know. My Scone and Terrio. All you need is hardcore. Call hardcore roofing. 364
I had to pick up my feet since y'all made fun of me last time for dragging my slippers. All right. All right. Bart Domingue, if Keyshawn isn't mentally in it, time to bench him. Message needs to send to the team. Yeah, Bart, that's not... Well, because he dropped a pass on a slant. You know who else dropped passes yesterday? Everybody. I mean, y'all been calling for Jack, and I love Jack. Y'all been calling for Jack. He muffs the punt on the opening kickoff. Should we bench Jack Besh? I mean, Jeray Jenkins had a touchdown at the end of the first half. He dropped it. Should we bench Jeray Jenkins? I mean, come on, man. Like, put your best players on the field. Stop it. Chris Laborde. I agree he's not the only problem. QB is usually the leader of the team, sets the tone. Everyone plays down to his level. Or maybe you're starting a former walk-on at running back. And maybe you have 2 true freshmen starting tackles on the offensive line and a first-time starting center. And you lauded transfers from FIU and East Tennessee State, neither of whom are playing for you right now. Like, maybe you're just not that good. Like, that's the crazy thing, bro. Y'all convince yourselves that why LSU is going to be a 10-2 football team. And no matter all of the imploring from people like me who try to tell you, no, they ain't going to be that good. Like, then this happens. They lose the game, and then it's the sky's falling and everybody stinks and fire everyone and bench everyone and whatever. Kyle Mays, Bernard Snyder, all around butt kicking. They will learn from it. After watching Bama struggle, should be a good game. Well, not if Bryce Young's back healthy. This is Shaq O'Neal and I hate Matt. Will Myers, does Booty need to sit a quarter or two to watch the game? No. Brian Penton, good morning. Bernard Snyder, O&D lines got manhandled. Well, remember the stat we shared about Tennessee's defensive line is that they are a boom or bust defensive line. They bring numbers, they bring pressure to create negative plays. And they did that, right? They realized they will give up big plays, but the trade-off is 5 sacks, 9 tackles for loss. 4th and 1 at midfield, and Daniels gets sacked, right? Because they bring pressure. I mean, it's those types of plays that the negative plays that they're trying to create. And they're good at it. Todd Harris, isn't it time to admit Coach O destroyed this roster? Thanks for 2019, but he lit the fire, this dumpster, and left it for Brian Kelly. Todd, I'm sorry. Have you not already admitted that? Like, have you not already acknowledged that? I mean, that is why this is what it is. I mean, we've been saying that. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, but you said, isn't it time to admit Coach O destroyed the roster? Like, that's why the man got fired. That's why they paid him $17 million to go away. We all acknowledge that. I mean, isn't that a generally acknowledged reality? Is that Ed Ogeron destroyed the program? His inability to recruit or hire coaches or maintain order just let the whole thing erode, which is why it is where it is. I mean, Todd, I'm saying, like, I don't think anyone is having trouble. Like, that's a universally accepted truth. I don't think anyone's pushing back against that. The question is, are you continuing to see improvement? Can you continue to see improvement? I think you have seen that from this team. Yesterday you played, that's probably the best team you played all year, and you got pushed around. Okay. Let's see how you bounce back. It's all a learning experience. So you went on the road, a week ago and got down 17 and fought back and won. That's a great sign, that your team doesn't give up. So now let's see how you bounce back after a really one-sided loss. Daniels is good. He needs to be more aggressive. Woodlawn quarterback is next in line after Daniels. No, I disagree with that, Dex. I think Ricky Collins is a good player, but I mean, either Nuss or Howard will start next year, or you might even bring in a transfer again next year if there's someone who's available. But to assume Ricky Collins is going to play next year is, I think, as a true freshman, I think that's not sound thinking. Jacob Swallow, Skip, what's going on, man? Do you think Tennessee beats Bama next week if Young doesn't play? Yeah, I do. Devin Kelly, how's E-Rock? Yeah, thanks for asking me. So she had an allergic reaction. I mean, her eye, like underneath her eye, was just like so swollen. She had splotches all over her face yesterday. So she went to the urgent care and they gave her like a triple dose of prednisone. But she it kind of makes you wired. So she was up from like 2 a.m. to 8 a.m. like just staring at the ceiling. So she just went back to sleep. But the good news is the swelling's gone down. I think she's still like in a lot of pain, but thanks for asking. Darren Spicer was a cover as to why Perkins was basically benched against Tennessee. No, yeah, I mean, Darren, I don't think he was benched. I think best I could tell, and I mean, I'll certainly ask Brian Kelly about this on Monday, and I think he might have been asked it yesterday after the game, but they were just in a base nickel, so they only had 2 linebackers on the field, and the linebackers on the field were Baskerville and Greg Penn. So, I don't think it was anything Perkins did. I think it was what the matchup dictated, but I certainly thought that he would be on the field kind of in the same role he was against Mississippi State, but Debbie Jenkins, I'm late to the podcast. Where was Harold Perkins? There you go. Craig Duga, basketball school. Madman McMahon running wild balls. We ride. David Hawes. How does LSU training staff miss dehydration with the starting left tackle? That's a great question, David. And I thought the same thing. Like, with all of the resources they have available, I don't want to say that none of the responsibility falls on Will Campbell. I mean, you've got to remember to stay hydrated and drink water and all that sort of stuff. But I'm wondering if there's a little something more going on there. So, right, I mean, because here's the point, David. And Brian Kelly alluded to it when EMS had to be called and all that stuff. It feels a little more serious than, well, you were dehydrated and got cramps, right? It's a little more serious than that, it seems. So let's wait and see. But I understand your point. It's a fair, if you're going to say it's dehydration, then that's a fair question to ask. Michael Thacker, that was absolutely our worst game of the year. Only look up from here. Hopefully offense can get it going. Special teams can avoid headlines. I mean, look, Florida State was pretty much a disaster too. We just immediately think of the end game scenario where like, oh man, if they made an extra point, they were going overtime. Yeah, but the 3 quarters leading up to it were a total disaster. I mean, in every phase. So, but yeah, that was definitely the best team you played all year. Yeah, and look, in tennis, Todd's right. Tennessee had an extra week to prepare. I mean, we talked about that. They had an extra week to get healthy, to prepare. They had a good game plan. They were rested and ready. And LSU was coming off a tough road win against Auburn, and you come home for an 11 a.m. kick, which is unorthodox. I mean, there's a lot of that's true. A lot of that is true. We said the variables favored Tennessee. Forrest Wilkinson, do you think Kayshawn's slow start will hurt his draft stock? No, Forrest, we actually talked about it last week, man. All the ESPN NFL draft analysts did their updated position rankings. So they put the top 5 at every position for the draft. And all 4 of them, Kuiper, McShay, and then the other 2 guys, Miller, and I forget the new guys, they all had Kayshawn either number 2 or number 3. The second or third best receiver in the draft, which would still put him in round 1. Let's see, Matt saw a story on NOLA. UNO is trying to start football. Do you know anything about that? And I just saw that they're trying to start a football program. I don't know any more details behind it. YouTube, please smash that like button. 256 watching. That's awesome. 73 on Facebook. We appreciate y'all. Zachary Hardy, Daniel's stats weren't bad yesterday. Still feel like he's late on throws. You can see his route developing. He's still late. There was one moment. It was... There it was. It was the first play of the second quarter. LSU down 13-0. They had 2nd and 13. Brian Thomas gets a 12-yard reception, so it's 3rd and 1. The quarter ends. So the first play of the second quarter was 3rd and 1. And Daniels, they have a route set up on the left side. And Daniels looks at it and then rolls right and throws it out of bounds. And they show Brian Kelly on the sideline, and he goes... It was one. You could see him saying it was 1-on-1, and he says, "WTF?" You know, basically throw it. It was like they knew they were going to go for it on 4th and 1 if they didn't get it. So like, take your deep shot. Maybe you hit the big play, or maybe you get a PI or something like that. It's like, take the shot, and we're going for it on 4th down anyway. And instead, Jaden it just rolled right and threw it out of bounds. So that's, those are the types of plays though where. I think Brian Kelly, when he talks about wanting him to be more aggressive, that's what he's talking about. Trivia, LSU ain't beating Ole Miss. I wouldn't be so sure, man. Telling you, dude, like how Kentucky got walloped yesterday by South Carolina at home. How impressive does the Ole Miss win over Kentucky look now? Ole Miss hasn't beaten anybody, y'all. I mean, we talked about this all throughout. Like Ole Miss. Their schedule is completely backloaded. Like all throughout media days, we talked about this. If Ole Miss beat Kentucky, they were likely going to be 7-0 coming to Baton Rouge. Now, like they beat Auburn this week, they're 7-0 coming to Baton Rouge. So, but then it's LSU. You look at their backloaded schedule, they'll have to play Alabama and Arkansas and A&M and Mississippi State. I mean, it's backloaded. So. Cortland, without Daniels, you have 0 run game. True. So for everyone who's like, Miles Brennan. Yeah, right. let teams completely commit to stopping your run, which they don't even need to commit to because everybody does it without doing it with numbers. There's a lot of connective tissue there. Let's see. Cliff Nelson, good morning. Drinking my sorrows with coffee and lemon cookies. Cortland, hate running quarterbacks, but putting Nussmeier out there and throwing him to the Wolves is just dumb. Bad experience doesn't help development. I think that's certainly the concern. Let's see, Mark Allen, Jaden Daniels wasn't the reason LSU lost. Yeah, look, and Bill Galling said Brian Kelly said he likes Daniels' play after the game. He made it. Listen, I know there have been some people in the last week or so who have kind of, I don't want to say lobbied for, but hinted at the possibility of a quarterback change. Well, God, I'll say because he said it on air. Like, Hannah Griffith said that pretty openly. He's pretty openly hinted at the possibility of a quarterback change. I'm going to tell you, and then Brian Kelly essentially stamped that out yesterday in the post game that Jay Daniels is our quarterback. He's going to be so. I have not heard from anyone credible within the LSU program or sort of ecosystem there that they were even considering a change. So, I mean, I think they recognize this is a lot like, I keep drawing this comparison, but it's a lot like 2017. I mean, Danny Etling was never going to be a great player, but he was your best option to win games that year. It was Etling or, give true freshman Miles Brennan a shot. And I think Ed knew he was up against it and had to win games. You couldn't risk having your freshman quarterback lose you a game, even though the experience might be helpful in the long term. So I think it's a similar situation. They just know that, well, Kelly has certainly far more job stability and security. I think they look at it and realize that Jaden gives them the best chance to win now because he's not going to beat you. He's not going to get you beat. Joseph Noto, it's definitely not all Daniel's fault. He seems to see a wide receiver open before he throws it. Besh fumble definitely hurt us the worst. Daniels is late on throws. Okay. Alan Black, O-line is the problem, lack of running game. The offensive line is definitely the root of your offensive issues. I think it's so easy for fans because, like, when we watch a game, we just watch the ball, right? But when you circle back and you realize your quarterback was sacked 5 times and you gave up 9 TFLs, your offensive line got destroyed. It is hard. See, like you say, well, the play calling sucks. Well, how do you even know sometimes what the play call was? When the quarterback is sacked, maybe they were dialing up a deep shot and the line couldn't protect for it. That's some of the part that you don't necessarily know unless if you know. Let's see. Jason H., Hal Jubin, Merritt Mathurin, Matt, do you think Daniels is still one and done? Yeah, I do. I mean, I think he's going. I don't think he'll be back for a 5th year. I haven't heard anything to the contrary. Edward, morning, Matthew. Denbrock's offense looks a lot like Bo Pelini's defense, both outdated and bad. Here's the difference, and I think this is important. Did Mike Denbrock's offense look outdated last year at Cincinnati? And don't say, oh, Cincinnati's playing against the American. I'm talking about the structure and functionality of what they did last year, okay? I'm not talking about who they played. I'm talking about what they did. Because if you want to go that route, then you could look at Josh Heupel and say, well, he was at UCF. Well, it certainly has carried over, hasn't it? Okay, so sorry. One is going, I cursed. So a year ago, Desmond Ridder threw for 3,300 yards. Jerome Ford ran for 1,300 yards. And you had your top 4 pass catchers were all receivers. Your next 2 top were tight ends, running back. I mean, you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 dudes with double-digit receptions last year. And Cincinnati made it to the college football playoff. I'm not telling you that I think they should have or whatever, but if you go back to 2018, which I believe was Denbrock's first year at Cincinnati, make sure I have it right. 17. Go back to 2017. Hayden Moore threw for 2,500 yards. You had a quarterback threw for 800 more yards last year. Your leading rusher ran for 513 yards. They still spread the ball around pretty good to their receivers. But point is, and they were that team in 2017 was 4-8. My point is, like, you've got to give them time to get the pieces in place to run what they want to run. Like, the whole Denbrock's offense looks outdated. Okay, but you have to have the pieces to run what you want to run. And you don't. It's very clear that you don't. So, and I've also seen Denbrock at his most recent stop do exactly that. In 2017, when he got to Cincinnati, they were bad. By the time he left after 2021, they were a top 10 offense in every category. So personnel matters. Yes, let them get personnel. Let them get time to run and function within what they do and do it really well. I mean, all that matters. With Pelini, so the point is, so you say it looks like Pelini's defense. The problem with Pelini's defense is Pelini had good players. Pelini had dudes on that team in 2020. They were just atrocious. Like, because they played Mississippi State and played man coverage the whole time. Never adjusted, never adapted. Like, that's despite having really good players. That was the problem with Pelini with 2020. Stop in front of my house. Stop in front of my house. So shout out to Brock, y'all. Manager with Peter Clinic, HUDCO Roofing, HUDCORoofing.com. 284 watching there on YouTube. Thank you for that. Only 98 likes. Maybe we could smash that like button. It's a little thumbs up thing if you wouldn't mind. I appreciate it. And of course, would love to give you a free no obligation roofing inspection. HUDCO is pinned on both chats, Facebook and YouTube. So just click that link on the homepage. There's a form. It'll take you literally 30 seconds. Like, as a reminder, if you were in the path of Ida a year ago, you have 2 years to file your claim. You may have roof damage that you don't know. So let us come inspect it. It's totally free to have a roof inspection. And if we see damage, we'll help you file a claim. HUDCO Roofing, HUDCORoofing.com. There's a reason you have homeowners insurance. There's a reason you have a named storm deductible. There's a reason why you have that in your policies to take care of this stuff. So let us help you. HUDCORoofing.com. Let's see. Cold case one. LSU got to get top guard and center out of the portal next year. They got to fix that O-line. Well, look, next year you'll have Emory Jones and Will Campbell, a year older, a year more mature. You'll have Garrett Dellinger, who will be a junior. So you'll have 3 really solid starters next year that you know of. Charles Turner could theoretically come back and be a 6th-year guy. No, I guess he would be a 5th-year guy next year. Was Turner class of 2018 or 2019? Yeah, so he'd be a 5th-year guy. Turner will be a 5th-year guy next year. So, you know what I mean? Like, you'll have a good core. You have Lance Hurd coming in, and you could obviously hit the portal. And you got some other guys who've been sitting around waiting their turn to maybe take a step. So, yeah. Louis Bergeron, what's going on? Reminds me of Saban's first season. It's a good comp. It is a lot like that 2000 season under Nick Saban. Colin Lawrence, football is 80% recruiting, 20% coaching. I don't know that I would go that drastic, but yes, teams with if you're going to be a national championship contender, you have to have the best players. They may lose the next 4 in a row, real possibility. They could. I don't think they will. I mean, if they lose the next 4 in a row, that would include UAB, which I disagree. So I'm assuming you're including Tennessee. But could they lose to Florida? Yes. Could they lose to Ole Miss? Yes. Will they likely lose to Bama? Yes. But I think they could beat either Florida or Ole Miss or Ole Miss. Jeremy Sagely, Austin Fridge, you think Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas are our best reliable wide receivers at this point? Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that's why they're leading you statistically. Let's see, Matt admitted that not enough for a bowl game. Well, I don't know what that's about, Adam. Sorry, but David Teachworth, Daniel Sinetz, Austin Timmons. Good morning. Thoughts on Denbrock currently? So yeah, I kind of just went through that when I answered the other person's question. I guess just knowing the history that Denbrock had at Cincinnati gives me more confidence that if you give him, it's like a cook it's like a chef. You got to have ingredients to be able to make the dinner that you want to make. Like, how can you make lasagna if you don't have red sauce and pasta? You can't. I mean, you can have some meat and some cheese, and you got some of the stuff, but you don't have everything you want to be able to make what you want. So, I think, considering what you have, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to tell you it's good. I'm not telling you that it looks great or you shouldn't have any concerns or question anything. I mean, of course, but it's really hard. Like the contrast is, I think part of the reason Matt House has come in and the defense has played so well. I mean, yesterday obviously gave up 40 points, but a lot of that was, we understand what happened, but short fields and turnovers. But I think a big part of why Matt House was able to come in and be so effective is, like, in that defense, you rely so heavily on the jack linebacker. Like, I know we've talked about this, but when Matt House was at Kentucky, it was the year they had Josh Allen as their defensive end. And he had 21 sacks and 19 tackles for loss or whatever it was. And, like, you come in and you have B.J. Ojulari to play that position. Like a freak show guy who is perfect for it. Like, B.J. Ojulari is a true jack stand-up outside linebacker. He's not a 4-3 hand-in-the-dirt defensive end, which is what he was playing. Like, he's way better in this role, right? Now, you also have your big, gigantic space eater in Mason Smith, who it sucks that he's not playing, but, like, that was such a massive part of what they were going to try to do this year. Mekhi Wingo's played really well. And then you got linebackers that can run. You got Baskerville. I think it's fair to say Mike Jones, they expected more. But Baskerville has clearly stepped up. Greg Penn has taken a step forward. And then Harold Perkins is a really good young player. And then, having the veteran safety talent that you have, especially with the way Greg Brooks has played this year, is awesome. You know what I mean? So, like, House, the talent he inherited fit much more what he was looking to do. Which is why I think you've had a more seamless transition there defensively, which is really encouraging. Jacob Swallow, do you think this is a must-win for the Saints today to have a chance at the wildcard spot? I do, Jacob. I do. And I hate to say that about a game in early October, but if you lose today and you go to 1-4, it's just so hard to do the math to see how the Saints dig out of this hole. Here's what I mean. If you're 1-4 after today, and you have 12 games to go, let's say you're above 500 in your remaining 12 games. Let's say you go 7-5 in your remaining 12, which 2 games above 500 in your remaining 12 would be awesome. But that still only puts you at 8-9 on the season, and you're not going to be a wildcard team at 8-9. So today could literally be the difference and being 8-9 or 9-8. Now, last year you were 9-8, and you didn't make the playoffs, but you also play in a division this year that stinks, and 9-8 may win you the division. So, yes, I do think if you lose today, you will need something otherworldly. I don't know how you dig out of a 1-4 hole, especially when two of those losses are Carolina and Seattle. I mean, those are ones you were supposed to get when you look at what you have ahead. So yeah, as close to a must-win today as you can imagine. Do you think if Dalton has a good game today, he could be considered keeping the job when Winston is healthy? I don't, Mac. I think we know what Andy Dalton is at this point in his career. And there's a reason that Dallas bounced him and Chicago bounced him and Cincinnati bounced him. You know, he's a player with a ton of experience who's, you know, got that experience and a little bit of arm talent left, but, you know, he's not going to take you where you want to go. Jameis has the potential to do that because of his physical ability. He's got to be healthy. And I think the Saints as an organization want to see what a healthy Jameis Winston looks like. You know, they were slow playing it last year, but they were 5-2 to start the season when he tore his ACL, and then, you know, he breaks his back in the opener this year, and it's been awful. Adam Michaels, outside of the top, college football is bad. That's subjective. I mean, define bad. I mean, is it the NFL? No, but that's the point. Eric Gullo. Oh, good. Got to meet Eric as well. It's good to meet you, Eric. Eric came out to our Hudco tailgate party at the Bowie on Friday. It's good to meet you, man. Anyone else think that was a horrible last play call by Jimbo? Yeah, Eric, I think everyone thinks that. Like, literally a consensus, everyone in humanity thinks the single man route to the boundary was the worst play call. Yes. Let's see. Kenneth Kyle is Polian gone after the season. Kenneth, I'm telling you what, man. If he's not, there has to be a major come to Jesus explanation from Brian Kelly, because I don't know how anyone can be satisfied. Richie Burt, Dana Boyd, should we continue to lose with the current quarterback or add some excitement with a throwing quarterback? By the way, Danny Etling was 100 times better than the current quarterback. Etling is still in the NFL. I wouldn't say Etling was 100 times better. Etling was a different player. The other thing, too, is in 2016, when Etling took over for... Like, this is the thing that has bothered me about this conversation for a long time. When Danny Etling took over in 2016 for Brandon Harris, remember they started 2-2, lost to Auburn. Ed became the interim, and they started Danny Etling. And then in 2017, they started Etling over Brennan. But y'all forget, it's the part of the Ed Ogeron conversation that's always made me laugh when people try to act like Ed Ogeron inherited a dumpster fire from Les Miles. The 2016 team was preseason top 5. Had a defense that consisted of your cornerbacks were Tre'Davious White and Dante Jackson. You had Jamal Adams at safety, Kendall Beckwith and Duke Riley at linebacker. Locketcher was on that defensive line. Arden Key in his All-America season in 2016. You had, on the offensive line, you had Will Clapp, Ethan Posick. Your running backs were Fournette, Geis, Darrell Williams. Your receivers were Malachi Dupree, DJ Chark, Russell Gage. Your tight end was Foster Moreau. You had an NFL team. 2016 is one of the biggest disappointments in LSU history because of the talent on that team. One of the most talented teams in LSU history. So let's not act like that what Ed inherited was a wasteland. What Brian Kelly inherited was a wasteland. But yeah, Danny Etley made some plays in 2016 with all of that talent, and they got shut out by Alabama. It was the 10-0 game. Anyway, so like, let's not say it's apples to apples because it's kind of not. Does Brian Kelly stop electing to receive after yesterday? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, he against Auburn, they won the toss and deferred. It was the first time they did it all year. And LSU, and in that game, LSU went 3 and out, and Auburn scored on the busted play, so they were down 7-0. But as I pointed out, LSU scored at the end of the first half, and they got the ball started the second half. So it worked as it should. If you get down 7-0 early, who cares? It's the first quarter. The benefit of going back-to-back possessions at the end of the first half, start of the second half, and then potentially having the ball to finish the game is the appeal of deferring. Mark Vitanovich, Roy Hill. I think there are more locker room issues than reported. Roy, look, man, I don't mean to completely be dismissive of you. It's just wrong. Like, I love you, man, but I don't like when people fabricate things that they just assume might be true and then put it out there. So I'm gonna push back against you, dude. Like, we have access to players and to coaches and to a lot of things internally, and that's just not true. Like, the locker room issues thing, I'm gonna very forcefully push back because it's just wrong. Like, there's no indication at all that is a thing, and to just throw that out there flippantly is irresponsible, and quite honestly, it's unfair to the young players to just assume there's locker room issues. Like, there's not. They're just not good. I'll say it again. You got offensive line. You were hyped about offensive line transfers from FIU and East Tennessee State. You have a cornerback right now from McNeese who's starting for you. At DBU, a transfer cornerback from McNeese is starting for you right now. I mean, you've got a transfer starting quarterback. Like, you've got 2 safeties that are starting right now that were transfers. You got a true freshman left tackle, a true freshman right tackle, and a former walk-on as your starting running back. You're not that good. You're not that good. Like, it's not locker room issues. It's not malcontents. It's you're not that good. That's the problem. Ed Ogeron gutted the roster. He completely allowed the program to deteriorate. Brian Kelly came in. He's stabilizing things. He bubblegum and duct taped this thing together this year with transfers to try to put together a roster of experienced guys that could win some games while you continue to recruit and build toward the future. You got the right guy in place. It's just, you're not 2019. You're not great. And you're not close to being great. And yesterday was evidence of that. Okay. LSU still undefeated in the West. Tim Forche, morning, Scone. I agree, Paulie needs to go. It's been 6 weeks. Special teams is not improving. And it's not only that it's not improving, Tim. It's that it's every phase of special teams. I mean, the one bright spot has been Jay Bramlett, the punter, who's been fantastic. But there's times he outkicks his coverage and you see 58-yard returns because they can't cover kicks. '16 was outstanding for sure. The talent on 2016 was outstanding. It was an incredible roster, and people overlook it. Like the common belief is, well, when a coach got fired because his team wasn't that good, and that's how people think about Les in 2016. No, Les was woefully underachieving with one of the best rosters in college football. Like, go back and let's do this for fun. All right. Geis, Fournette, Darrell Williams, Nick Brossette were your running backs. Duke Riley, Kendall Beckwith, Jamal Adams, Devon Gottschall, Lewis Neal, who, by the way, had 3.5 sacks a year. Arden Key, who had 11 sacks, was an All-American. Donnie Alexander, Dwayne Thomas, Dante Jackson, John Battle, Tre'Davious White. Devin White was a freshman on that team. Tashawn Bauer, Kevin Tolliver. Oh, my God. Like, there's just no business. There's just no business for that team being so bad. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. All right, as always, shout out to Brock, y'all. Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic, HUDCO Roofing, HUDCORoofing.com. You need an orthopedist, you go to Brock. You need a roof, give us a shout at HUDCO, HUDCORoofing.com, HUDCORoofing.com. Let me get through these quickly here. It is 10:43. Smash that like button. 280 watching there on YouTube. We appreciate that. If you're new, please subscribe up to the channel. Facebook, please like the Matt Moscona page, share the post. We appreciate y'all as always. Man. Boy, I really got behind on comments. My apologies, y'all. I'm going to go quickly here to see if I can kind of get through it. Hal, Swamp is tough. LSU should win that one. LSU is the much better team. I don't know that I would say LSU is the much better team. See if we got a line on that game yet, do we? We should have an early line on that game. Florida 3. That's about right. Neutral side be pick 'em, so Florida favored by 3. That's about right. Brambo. Tackling is a must next Saturday. Anthony Richards is going to be running and throwing. Defense has to bounce back. I like LSU's defense in that matchup. I do. Because I think LSU has athletic linebackers that can run, that can limit Florida's running game. And I don't know that Richardson can just beat you as a straight passer. So I do like LSU's defense in that game. Michael Nooner, bottom line, this is a poorly coached team. Drop passes week after week. Special teams a bit of dumpster fire. Kelly should be eviscerated for yesterday showing. Poland should be fired. See, here's the thing, Michael. Drop passes aren't a coaching thing. Drop passes are a talent concentration thing. A coaching thing is you make the decision to go for it on 4th and 4, passing on a short field goal to get you on the board, and you throw a screen pass in the flat and you come up a little bit short. Well, coaching made that decision to go for it there. Like, you have to own the results of that. If coaching dials up the right play on 3rd and 3, and you throw a slant to your best receiver and it hits him in the face mask, that's not coaching. Coaching had the right play. Your guy didn't catch the ball. Now, special teams, what we've seen week after week, allowing 58-yard punt return, we have the lack of coverage, the block field goal PAT against Florida State. A lot of that's coaching because it's the personnel you have on the field. It's how you're teaching those things, and that holds for sure. Coaching deserves a lot of blame, but the example you gave was just drop passes week after week. Like, the coach can't go catch the ball. Like, we've all talked about, and I'm in this number. We've all talked about that this receiving group is the most talented group on the team. They're not playing like it. Like, your quarterback isn't playing at an elite level. So you need your receivers who are elite to pick him up. Well, you have a 3rd and 3, you're on a slant to Kayshawn, he drops it. Like, you got to make that play. Last week, it was the same thing. They ran a crossing pattern with Malik Neighbors, who was a little behind him, but he got both hands on the ball. It was a 3rd and 8. He dropped it. Like, you got to make the catch. Jure at the end of the first half. I know the ball was tipped, but you're going to be in the NFL next year. The ball hits you in 2 hands. Catch the ball. Catch the ball and you score in stride. like that. I guess that's my biggest problem. Like acknowledging your receivers are supposed to be the strength of your team. They should be elevating everything around them, and they're not. That's I think the big problem I have. And so then you're immediately going to turn and say, well, the quarterback there, so the play call that. And I just gave you a handful of examples where the receivers had a chance to elevate quarterback play call and let you down. It's not just those guys. I'm not picking on them. I mean, they're college athletes. But yeah, I mean, it's just, there's a lot of blame to go around, man. It's why you are what you are. And they'll get back to an elite level. Like, I'm sure they will. The recruiting class they're putting together right now looks awesome. Like, and you can continue to supplement the portal, and they'll be fine. It's just going to take time, man. And there's going to be days like yesterday. Hey, bud, you want to come say hi to Dad's show? Come say hi. Come say hi.
No.
Let me get my hands on you. Come here. Let me get my hands on you. Come here. Come here. Drew, come here. I'll get my hands on you. No, you come here. Come here. Go. Drew. Oh, he ran away. Oh, God, his diaper is huge. I could go change his diaper. Okay. He stopped. He was like looking like, and he just ran away. Let's see. Any more? I can't decide if I love or hate Labradoodles, but I'm tired of Napoleon. Oh, man. Napoleon seems like an intelligent guy. Surprised the special teams units continue to suck. The other part about it, too, is like, I guess this is the conflicting part, right? You hire Napoleon, and he's your special teams coordinator, but he's also your recruiting coordinator. So it's like, is it one of those things where, and I don't know the answer to this, but did you hire him to be the recruiting coordinator and figure, all right, we'll just stash him as a special teams coach? Like, that's what they did with Bradley Del Pivito. Les did that with Pivito years ago, and Pivito was terrible. And one of the first things Ed did, like when Ed got hired full-time after the A&M game in 16, Ed, like, got hired on Saturday. On Sunday, he fired Bradley Del Pivito. Like, Pivito was terrible. If you remember in that A&M game, A&M got an onside kick at the end of the game. LSU special teams were atrocious in 2016, and Pivito was a giant reason of it. But Pivito was a guy who was on staff because he was a recruiter. He was a really good recruiter, and they tried to stash him on staff. And that happens sometimes. Look, like, I remember when Les hired Jabbar Jaloub. Jabbar had been a high school coach in New Orleans, and you don't typically make the jump from high school coach to major college football coach. But they needed an in New Orleans, and Jaloub had been at I think at Carr, and like it was a rough go, and so he was on staff primarily to help recruit New Orleans. There was a bunch of kids out of New Orleans area that year that they didn't get, and maybe the running back room wasn't great, and so like they moved on from him. He went to Texas Tech. I think he's at Florida now, as a matter of fact. But like sometimes, I guess my point is like sometimes you stash recruiters on staff. And maybe that's it with Napoleon. Like maybe they have him on staff to be a recruiter, like try to stash him as the special teams coach, and it's just not going well. So like, is there a role for him to continue being a recruiting guy, but bringing someone who actually knows how to coach special teams? I don't know, maybe. Mitchell Knapp's, we need another summer of 10,000 catches, but yes, they do. River Reese, who's the guy you recommend for sports betting tips? Oh, well, on Sunday, Jimmy Ott's show. So Jimmy Ott is, hosts Game Time after AFR, but then on Sundays he does his Football Sunday show. And then, so it's 10:51 right now as we're doing it live. Jimmy does all of his pick recaps starting like 11:30, 11:35. So I would tune, if you're not listening now, tune in around 11:30 to get, and then about 11:40, 11:45, he gives his 5-pack of picks for the day. So. Edwardo, I don't blame Napoleon for fumbles on kickoffs and punts. I'm with you, unless if the personnel decision was his, and that's part of the problem. You see what I mean? Like that's where you say, well, on the coverage units, when you keep allowing these returns, well, the coaches are the ones who are choosing the players to be on the coverage units, and if you're picking players that either aren't athletically gifted enough to do what you need them to do, or disciplined enough to stay in your lanes. Like I don't know. I'm not out of practice. I don't know how they do it, but that's the thing with special teams that matters. Like I mean, I was always as a guard on field goal PAT. Just my whole life was always on field goal PAT, and it was one of the most common things. You just cross your leg, you X your leg behind the guy next to you, you create no gaps at all, and everyone blocks down, and you make someone, if they're going to block, come from around the edge. Well, like, they put, opening game, they had Mason Taylor out at the left wing. Well, that's something he had literally never done in his life. And in a huge moment, they ran a stunt, and he went out and left a crease. I mean, that's coaching, because, like, you put a guy in there that has never done that and was there in a critical spot, Anyway. Yeah, so Alex Rabelais say, I don't know if it was fluky because I didn't watch, but Richardson threw for 450 against Tennessee. It's hard to dismiss his passing ability. But so every other game, he threw for under 200 yards, except the Eastern Washington game. The Tennessee game, when they hit two big plays late that inflated the numbers. But there's no doubt, Florida had a game plan against Tennessee that took advantage of their aggressiveness in the front seven to leave guys open on the back end, and their receivers made plays. And their receivers are not as talented as LSU. It's one of the reasons why I thought, Alex, that LSU would have a much better showing in the game yesterday, because I thought LSU had the receiving talent to take advantage of Tennessee's aggressiveness in their defensive front seven. All right. All right. A few more. All right, a lot of y'all are just arguing with each other, which is fine. Hey, Dad, good morning. George Mueller, Jay Brabham, Dex Gonzalez. The fact that so many LSU fans know a special teams coach's name is never a good thing. I disagree with that, Dex. I mean, everybody knew Greg McMahon was a special teams coordinator. Web Drive Gary, how is Florida only a 2-point favorite against LSU? Seems awfully low. Because, again, like, yesterday's result is still an outlier. Like, Vegas looks at Vegas power rankings and point spread differential or point spread value to come up with lines, with betting lines. Tennessee was a 2-point favorite against LSU, or a 3-point favorite. Like, you play that game 10 times, you get that result, 40-13, maybe once or twice. Like, those two teams play 10 times, you're going to have more competitive games than you had yesterday. It was about as poorly a game as LSU's played this year, start to finish, in all phases. So, you took your lumps. But the flip side of it is, Florida also is not a super great team this year either. They won a close one against Missouri, who darn near rallied against them yesterday. We remember that season opening win against Utah, and Richardson went wild running the ball. But this is a Florida offense that has kind of been. I think they put up a ton of points against Eastern Washington, and but LSU put up 60 against Southern, so it's going to skew your numbers, But that's a gettable game for LSU next week. It is. The matchup is much better for LSU because Richardson and those receivers are not as dynamic in the pitch and catch game, and I think LSU's defensive front seven is big, strong, fast, physical enough to compete against Florida's running game. So now offensively, we know LSU's offensive woes. I mean, can they get rolling against Florida? We'll see. Right, Dalton Barnett, Matt, I have to be honest, I wasn't a fan of your content until LSU went belly up 2 years in a row. Now I'm a faithful Sconer. Well, Dalton, hopefully they don't go belly up ever again. Like I'm not a fan of LSU going belly up. I want the Tigers to win on Saturdays and to win a ton. But thank you for watching. I do appreciate it. All right, I'm gonna get out of here, y'all. Got Gramps' 90th birthday party today, man. Excited about that. Gramps turned 90 on Friday, and so our family's gonna get together and celebrate him. All right, y'all. Have an awesome day. Thanks so much as always for watching. Do me a favor, YouTube, if you're new, please subscribe up to the channel and smash that like button. Facebook, please like the Matt Moscona page and share this post. We appreciate y'all as always. Thanks so much to Brock. The Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic After Hours Clinic is open today. They're open on weekends, so if you find yourself in need of an orthopedist, bypass the ER, go to Brock. And of course, Hudco Roofing would always love to give you a free, no obligation roofing inspection. If you check the chat, the Hudco website is pinned. Just click that link. On the homepage, you'll see the little form. It will literally take you 30 seconds to fill out the form. Maybe less than 30 seconds, depending on how fast you type. Fill out the form. We'll be in touch to schedule a free, no obligation roofing inspection. We'd appreciate it. Commercial or residential, holler at us. Okay, y'all have an awesome Sunday. Who dat? So the Saints go get it done. And we'll see y'all tomorrow morning for our morning Scone. Peace. Have a great Sunday, everybody.